What's up, mi gente? It's Anthony Rosa, Mr. Remedy, and you're watching another show on the Round Table Remedies. And I'm super excited. We have an amazing cast today. And just so you know, this is a special show. This is an international show, and we're talking about self-care. What does self-care look like to you? But first, I want to allow our speakers in speaker rotation just to say hello and let us know where they're calling from. First up in speaker rotation, Syra.
Hi, Anthony. I'm Sarah from Germany.
Hi, Sarah. Thank you for coming back again on the round table.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. I'm so excited.
Absolutely, absolutely. And second in second rotation, we have Vera. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Vera. How are you?
Hey, nice to see you. Thank you so much for having us. It's a pleasure to be here with you, ladies.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And then anchoring us in tonight, we have Damaris. Thank you, Damaris, for coming on.
Hey everyone, thank you so much for allowing me on. I am in Jersey, Central Jersey, Middlesex County.
Jersey in the building. Hey guys, real quick, if you're watching on the live, I want you to do us a favor. We would love to, engage with you. So like, comment, share, hashtag live. And if you're on the replay, hashtag replay. So self-care, what does it look like to you? Roundtable Remedies was created to inspire, connect, and educate people, real stories, and we're hoping that some of the tips and tricks you may learn along the way are some of the remedies. And so, self-care, Syra, this is the second time coming back and coming in from Germany. It's so great to see you. What does self-care look like for you?
Thank you so much, Anthony, for having me on second time. Would you be okay if we do a little bit of a grounding? I think that would just be one of my self-care tips.
Yeah, grounding. Let's do it. Why not?
Okay. I just wanted to offer something that I find is really amazing. And I've got a ton of grounding things, but this one, it's so simple. And I've just found all my clients just love it. And it's called box breathing. It's really simple. You breathe in through the nose, you hold the breath, you breathe out through the mouth, and you hold the breath. It's like a box. And we do it for a full count of 4. You breathe in through the nose, your mouth is closed. And when you breathe out, you go we'll just do 4 breaths, 4 rounds. I'll guide you.
Okay, let's do it. You lead the way. We'll all follow you.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
You at home, get into this box breathing. Let's try it.
So just go ahead and close your eyes. Relax your shoulders. If you're sitting on a chair, your back can just settle back into the chair. If you've got feet on the ground, then just press your feet a little bit more into the ground. Keep your mouth closed and just start to breathe in very gently through the nose for a count of 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold the breath for 4, 3, 2, 1. Open the mouth, breathe out, and then hold the breath for 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale through the nose, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold the breath, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale through the mouth, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold, 4, 3, 2, 1. Inhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold, 4, 3, 2, 1. Open the mouth. Exhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold, 4, 3, 2, 1. Last round. Inhale, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale through the mouth. 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold, 4, 3, 2, 1. Keep your eyes closed. Release, controlling the breath. And then just very gently from this state, open your eyes and try to keep this state as you come back with your eyes open. So that's my favorite all-time breathing. It just brings you here, and I think everybody just loves it. It's very simple.
That was great.
Yeah.
Damaris or Vera, have you ever did any breathing exercises like that before?
I do them daily.
Do them there.
Sometimes throughout the day, because again, it just kind of centers you,
Yeah.
especially
Yeah, I think
in what we
that
I've
do.
felt
done those.
great.
I've
Around all
done
the
those before, but definitely not on a daily basis. And I'm like, oh, I really need to get into this. My breathing every day is like, I actually was doing something earlier today, and someone was like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, just huffing and puffing, and I'm like, "Oh no, this is just me, trying to like release the tension, but it doesn't. It's
Right.
not as nice and smooth as you just showcased for us."
So I really like that grounding exercise. Syra, how did you create this new routine, or how did you get started in the career of yoga or what you practice?
Oh, yoga was just really 3 a.m. One day I woke up and I was like, my life, I need to change something. I was like a mother of three, married, and so I just got up and went to India, and it all started there. I just found like home, my home. And I was like, this is so easy. I can do this with my eyes closed. Of course, I did the trainings, but I just found, I don't know, it was amazing. Like, I think everybody should just go to an ashram in India and do a yoga training for a month just for themselves. Uh, it was like amazing.
Right. And so, Syra, for those that are watching, and what would you recommend to them when they find themselves in moments where, this would be useful? What are some of the moments that you found this breathing exercise to be useful for you?
I cannot, I really just do it in the morning. Wake up and start your day with it. It's like for me, I always tell like anybody who's doing yoga with me or one-to-one clients is that you get up, you brush your teeth, you take a shower, and then you get your energy ready to go out in the world. So it's like it's like a life changer, that habit for me. You can meditate, it doesn't matter, but it's just sitting in stillness, whether it's 5 minutes. You don't have to do this like 2 hours in your mind, just like, and you breathe and then you center yourself and you're like, I'm ready. And then you go into the world. I think that's, you just cannot beat that.
Yeah, that was such a unique and authentic way of starting the show, talking about self-care. And I hope that those that are watching, both on the live and the replay, you got a chance to try that. And if you never did any breathing exercises and you enjoyed it, comment on the posts below and let us know what you felt after that. That was amazing. Self-care is very important. I think that we don't put ourselves first enough. And so, Syra, what are some other ways that you take care of yourself in regards to self care?
I really, when you invited me onto this, I had like a ton of my self care things. And then I was like, if I could give your audience, because I really wanted to be of service today, just like where I feel in my journey over the last 15 years, where I'm now. And I think this is so important for us with whatever's happening in the world. I discovered like self care as regulating my automatic nervous system. So when I discovered that, that was just a game changer. So in the past, I was doing a lot of things. And from that, if I go into the gym and I do all my daily habits, they actually just happen. So before I had to do self-care like as a discipline, I have to go to the gym and all of that. But when I just focus on regulating my nervous system and I learned a little bit and I can just share quickly what I learned, like in like a couple of minutes, like the how do you say, like the middle, like that's just where everything comes from. And
Yeah.
then I think everything else was much easier. And so I found this lady called Deb Dana, and she has been talking about the vagus nervous system. And it was just so powerful to learn that we have like this nervous system and we have like three parts. And I only just knew you have the sympathetic and parasympathetic. And I just knew sympathetic is when you're on fight or flight. And
Mhm.
parasympathetic is when you're just frozen and you can't do anything. And recent
Mm.
discoveries, they're really going deep into it. They're like this part where you're frozen, there's like two parts. And there's the dorsal and there's the ventral. And that it's actually a hierarchy. So you have ventral, which is very much relaxed, you're safe, you're calm, which I've sometimes reached in my meditation. Then you have the sympathetic nervous system, which is like fight or flight, do. And then you have dorsal, which is like shut down. complete. And I found like during COVID and a lot of things happened to me at that time. It was the first time in my life I was in shutdown. I didn't even recognize it.
Mm.
I was like, I'm really like a go-getter and I'm either like connected to my spirit or go-getting. And this was really, really intense. And I felt like everything shut down. I can't even move. And then when I learned about the nervous system, I knew that I would have to move from this state slowly into sympathetic. But if I just went to sympathetic, I'd be on fight flight and I'd just shut down because the world was getting more difficult. So every time I started moving forward, I just started to shut down. So I was going through these two nervous systems, which are called like the dorsal and the sympathetic. And then when I discovered actually my aim is to go to ventral, and
Mm.
ventral is what they're discovering more. This is where you feel safe, you feel calm, you trust the universe. And some people call it spiritual bypassing. And so I learned to go to that state and from there be able to look what's underneath. And I just found that amazing. And then there's this other book called The Body Keeps Score by a guy called Bessel van der Kolk, but it's getting really popular, this book. And that was also talking about how there's so much stuff in our body. Like we keep thinking that if I fix it here, everything will be. And this new stuff that's coming up, it's so fascinating and it's really helped me a lot. It's like saying everything, the body keeps the score and it has 80% of the information from the world in it. And it's sending that 80% in your head. And your head's only sending like 20% down. And in a nutshell, that means I used to think like my thoughts and my positive thinking can help me. And I didn't, during this like whole wars and all thing, I realized that there's something happening in the body, that only this positive thinking wasn't moving me forward. So I think a lot of my self-care was to understand my automatic nervous system and find ways through these new ways to how they can move, like somatic work, boxing, like the boxing, not just for looking fit and getting fit, boxing to just let out energy stored in
Yeah, that's built up. You know, it's
that's
like,
built
oh, you
up.
didn't return my phone call. Oh, you
Yeah,
still,
but but that's anger and all that we're feeling because our bodies are taking on what the whole world is doing. We're not made
right.
to have this type of information. So we have like a next pandemic of bodies just stuck with information that we don't know what to do with. So that's why we're all like kind of, yeah, probably more lonely and lost than we like to admit.
No, and look, it's very interesting the topic that you bring up, right?
Yeah.
Damaris and Vera, I think that it's what would you think about, or what would you say, like understanding and listening to body triggers,
Yeah.
right? It's because in the nervous system, it's sending you these different shocks, right? Whether you're, racing leg or shaking hands and tight chest and short breath. And, it's like now you're irritable and you're like, oh, someone calls your name and you're like, what? And you're like, oh, I'm sorry, excuse me. What was that?
Yeah.
Right? It's
Yeah.
like we just snap.
Yeah.
I think that, Syra, for me, going to the gym in the morning, in my routine for my self-care, yeah, I push myself with, high intensive training and different type of weights to kind of shock my body. And,
Yeah.
I love it. In fact, I don't know if I consider gym self-care because of what I'm putting myself through. I'm really exhausted afterwards, but I love the feeling. It was like that grounding exercise that we did, and just kind of
Yeah.
everything is all out. I can't even be mad at anything after that.
Gym is absolutely amazing. I didn't think as a yoga teacher and a practitioner of all those type of things that I would tell everybody go to the gym. I've just found gym has like changed my life. I still do yoga and I do meditation and breathing, but if you would say, should I do yoga or the gym? I would say go to the gym. I love it.
Yeah, I
It's
think that was one of
game
the
changer.
biggest takeaways. Is like, yeah, the breathing exercise is great. Going to the gym, great. Just learning how to listen to your body when your body is trying to tell you something, because we're all super unique. It's very interesting to start to see the different um, like places that you're in, right? If you're at work, if you're at home, if you're out and about shopping, just certain things, your body. Vera, you're shaking your head. What are you thinking? What are some of your thoughts?
Things. I mean, for me, it's kind of in reverse, right? I found the breathing and the self help, I guess, because I couldn't work out. So I had a car accident a few years ago, and
Mm,
I used to be a gym person 5 days a week. Monday through Friday, 6 a.m., 5 a.m. I was in the gym, 5 to 6. So going from that routine to the point where I was a kind of like a gym person, that I built a gym at home during COVID because I needed to do it because I was so disciplined in doing it. Long story short, fast forward, had a car accident and now I can't work out at all. So for me, that's a problem, right? Because that's how I release everything that's
Mm.
happening. So I had to, at the same time, I started working with a life coach. And he's like, let's start meditation and breathing exercises and just kind of working from inside out, right? So it's a whole different pace because I can't be doing the hit training that I'm used to. So
Mm.
finding, somatic workouts where it's a lot of breathing and stretching, and it's just a whole different realm of working out, I guess. Um, it helps in a different way, I guess, versus going to the gym every morning. That's gone. So what I start my day with is the reverse. I have a grounding mat. So I
Mm.
plug into that. And then I do my breathing exercises, my visualization, my meditation. And again, just kind of like my me time before anything else starts, before the kids are out of bed, before the chaos begins. This is my time. And I start every day that way. And it kind
What
of,
time is that around, Vera? Sorry to interrupt.
no, it's usually takes me, like she said, it's not like, oh, I'm sitting there for an hour. I sit there for maybe like 10, 15 minutes. It's around 7 o'clock while my oldest is getting ready, for school. By the time she's out of the bathroom and brushing her teeth and doing the whole routine, I'm kind of almost right behind her. But again, it just gives me that break before the day starts. And then what I incorporated recently into my calendar, because single mom with two kids, I run two businesses. There's a lot of things happening. So in my calendar, I'm so micromanaging my time that I now have pieces in there where it's like breathing, just taking a second to breathe, or my gratitude, like, okay, why am I doing this? Like, let me refocus my energy.
Mm.
Because we deal with so many people in what we do on a daily basis. We're in meetings, people have different energy levels. If you're an empath like I am, like I absorb a lot of people's energy. So I have to kind of find a release for all that. So that's kind of what's helped me on a day to day, is kind of starting the day with that pace and then kind of trying to bring it full circle at least once or twice throughout the day. Taking 2 seconds before I go grab a glass of water, just, oh, let me breathe. Exactly what she did, 4 or 5 deep breaths, and then go about my day. It does help.
Now, yoga's not supposed to help. Hurt. I'm sorry. Hurt. Yoga is supposed to help. Yoga is not supposed to hurt, right? And so I appreciate, Vera, you framing that, with doing it in the morning, getting your kids ready, because I feel like some individuals, some parents, it's the, oh, I don't have time, that whole sequence, right? And I think that we always hear the word, insanity, right? Doing the same thing, expecting different results. I want to be happier. Why do bad things keep happening to good people? It's like we kind of put these ourselves in these situations, I feel.
Mm-hmm.
So what kind of techniques do you do for those that may have some physical ailments that can't go to the gym, and very similar to your situation? I appreciate you sharing that.
No, absolutely. I mean, for me, the first thing I do, because I read something, I don't know what it's called, forgive me, but it's kind of like when you first wake up, your brain waves are at a different level. So I start my day with visualization, right? So I put this specific song on, and it kind of just helps me kind of mellow out. And I just sit there and I visualize what I want the day to look like, what I'm working towards. And that's kind of,
Mm.
I then grab my grounding mat, I lay it down, and I sit there and I meditate and I do my breathing exercises. That kind of just, I don't know, it grounds your whole body. It kind of resets
Right.
your focus and your intention for the day or for the week, whatever it is that you're focusing on. And then if I have time, which I haven't had time to be honest, I would love to go for walks, because that's something anybody can do. And the fresh air, the sunlight helps. Just being outside. Sometimes I purposely park farther away at the grocery store, something that basic, but that fresh air
Right.
Yeah.
just in your face, the sun is out, just being grateful that you get another day. That's kind of, gratitude is everything. You can't be upset and be grateful at the same time. So if you focus on gratitude, that helps a lot.
And one thing I wanted to add to that is, don't sweat the small stuff.
Mhm. That's the
That-
hardest part.
You know, that's something I have to work on, especially, I have 5 kids between the ages of 4 months and 10 years old.
Mhm.
And before, I like to have my house somewhat tidy and organized, right? You can imagine with that age group of kids. And I don't know, I just got to a point, now that they're older, I can encourage them and reward them for cleaning up after themselves a little bit more. But oh, I would sweat. It's like, oh, this house, like, and then that energy kind of changes the whole enjoyment of that because I'm focusing on the toys, being messy. Now I embrace the time of the messiness because I know that it's not gonna last forever.
No. Those
So
Yeah.
I gotta learn to not sweat the small stuff. Does anybody else have that? Damaris, Syra?
Yes,
Yeah.
I have a 7-year-old and 7-year-old boy, and between my husband and him, it is like I leave the house, it's perfect. I walk back in and I'm like, what is happening here, right? And to your point, right? Like I'm very much an organized person. That's how I keep my brain like sane, I think. Like I need to have everything in its place. And through experience and through self work with coaches and whatnot, I realized that it's okay to let those things go because I can't control it all and it's not healthy. And I'm stifling the environment of that playfulness, that, you know, allowing them to have that creativity and that freedom to just kind of just live and just be. So there's a time and a place of saying, okay, now it's time to pick up and clean up or whatnot, but not making it a constant, like top of mind the minute I walk in. Whoa, what is going on, right? So it's really like stepping back and saying, you know what, like everybody's home, it's safe, and this is what life looks like. This is reality. Reality isn't what we see on TV where everything is like perfectly placed. But
Right,
it's a
right.
struggle for me, right? And that's part of, letting go of things and being a little bit more conscious of what's truly important and where you devote your time and energy to.
Yeah, right. I feel like we have to ground ourselves right before we come into the house, right? I don't know what I'm gonna expect, but let me protect my peace, right?
Yeah.
Syra, what about you about sweating the small stuff or
Yeah.
protecting
I
your
mean,
peace? What are some of your thoughts?
like 3 kids, business, living in 2 places between Germany and Bali. It was just madness. And I had the energy before, like I had like a tough phase in my life. And then my mantra was joy and peace. Nothing is more important than my joy and peace. And I think that was just my constant mantra. The last
Right,
2 years, it's just joy and peace. So I just take it everywhere. If it's stressy, if it's taking my peace, I'm going to change. I'm going to move away from the situation or I'm going to let it go. And that's like it's amazing now. But yes, it was not easy.
absolutely. It's not easy, right?
And
And
when I look back, I was like, why was I doing that? So on the other side, you realize you were conditioned, right? We all know this. It's like childhood conditioning to be perfect or needing recognition as a mother or whatever. And then as you let that go, you're like, wow, I got conditioned into all of that. Um,
right, I
100%.
yeah,
mean, when you peel the onion, and it's what matters
yeah,
most, I feel.
exactly. Yeah.
And talking about values and purpose, and we can go on and on in that kind of conversation, but talking about self-care and just keeping it laser focused is, these are all subponents to it and different components that kind of build up to it, right? Because you don't just create these routines. So there's certain things that happen along the way that you have to put these routines in place.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
coming back to you, Vera, when you were when you had to make that transition from working out and your typical routine, how did that make you feel? I don't know if you were just so spunky go lucky and like, oh, okay, I'm gonna change it up, or was there a time where you allowed yourself to kind of be in that emotional space?
Uh, Real talk, yeah, you go through it, right? Because you're used to this and now it's this, and you have no control over what your body wants to do. Your mind wants to do certain things and your body physically can't. So that's deregulating in itself. So for me, it was a difficult transition at first. I was reluctant because I'm like, no, I have to do hit training. That's all I know. I have to do weight training. That's what my
Right,
body needs. And then just accepting it, right? Coming to terms with that's okay. That was a phase of life great. Maybe I can go back to it eventually. Maybe I can't. Through the coaching years ago, he did teach me, he's like, stop telling yourself stories, right? We tell ourselves stories. We build stories in our head. It's like, just focus on what's really at hand and one problem at a time. So, okay, I couldn't do this, but I can do this, right? So focus on being grateful that I can walk. I can do lightweight training. I can do yoga. I can do bar. I can do other things. It's just not what I wanted to do, right? So it's just adjusting. I think a lot of us have like fixed energies. And so we get stuck in what we think we should be doing because whether we're conditioned with the expectations socially. And so all what we really need and want goes to the side because we're trying to meet everybody else's standards. And we need to like regroup, reground ourselves to what really works best for us today. Because what's today may not be tomorrow, may not be what's down the line. You know, we just don't know. So
Now, do any of you think that there's a little bit of a pride or an ego thing with, when it comes to doing things that would be good for you? It's like, no, I don't want to go to sauna and sweat it out. No, I don't want to do a yoga. What is yoga? Do you think that there's a little bit of pride or ego, Damaris?
I don't know. I don't see it that way. I think like for instance, I recognize after many attempts of like, oh, I'm gonna go and try to do something that's really hard or whatnot. Like I focused on myself and said like, what's going to bring me joy, right? Like it's not about necessarily like, oh, I'm going to get so fit that I'm going to look like that, right? It's about what can I do physically that is going to bring me joy. And in that I found Pilates. So a similar form, right? Like yoga. I love it. It works for me. And in that I find the joy and I find the release that I need. So I don't know that I would look at it from a point of pride or ego. It's just really knowing who you are and what your body needs and what makes you happy. I don't have to be or look like everyone else as long as I feel, healthy and physically and emotionally.
And from what I'm, in this conversation and speaking with people, I'm hearing and seeing sometimes it's easier said than done, being happy in your own skin. And if we're being real, even from a credit side, sometimes people are just not happy with where they are in life. So when certain individuals kind of don't have the right coping methods, that's why I'm so on self-care, is because, good day or bad day, I used to have a drink, right? And this December, I'm going 3 years dry. And I thought that was my self-care. It was like, oh, we made money today, babe. Let's go out for dinner and have a couple drinks. Or, oh, it's football Sunday. I can't wait. Let's go get some drinks. That was a part of my coping method about self-care. It's like, oh, this is my time. But in actuality, I was probably at that time not happy with certain things. And I'm understanding that my vulnerability is my superpower. And that's why, at first I was like, no, I'm not an alcoholic. Or no, I have good routines. But when you start to really peel the onion and you start to process these things, it's like, oh, I could do this a little better and I could do that a little better. I could, and so I'm learning how to love myself. I'm learning not to use words like, oh, I'm such an idiot. Right, because those things, right, is like that pride and ego is we kind of say things to ourselves, and I think words carry weight, right? So Syra, did you ever have that incidence where maybe it wasn't the pride and ego thing, but now it's just like we're using words that are kind of putting us in, like putting a spell on us?
Oh yeah. I mean, I've just become very disciplined. Like it was like the things I would say to myself, the things I would use for distraction. I'm a little bit like, I feel very good in my skin finally, because I'm like, I can trust myself. I can trust myself to follow just the moment. So it was just like loving myself. I'm okay with who I am, and also surrounding myself with people who can reflect that back. I was surrounded by people who were just reflecting that I'm not good enough because I was the chaser. I was the caretaker of everyone. So it was like, if you need anything, I'll do it. And it was all coming from a very unhealed place. And so it was, yeah, changing the thoughts, just not allowing a thought in. I went to a Joe Dispenza. He's just amazing, a retreat of his, and I think that was also a great turning point. It's just like a filter to the thoughts that go in. And like Vera, I was also in a very bad body shape, and that retreat also, I was like, you know what, I'm okay. I'm going to radically surrender to the fact that I might be on a wheelchair pretty soon. And I think that radical acceptance really started shifting. Like my body started working again and things started changing, because from completely accepting who I was, I could start to change, as opposed to, not having compassion. Like, and also say it's not my fault who I am. Like it's a conditioning from everything. And so it was like very also humor. You got to bring in humor. It's like the human experience is so funny. So I think I just brought in a lot of humor to start to change things. Oh, there I go again saying that. Yeah. So very, very
Absolutely.
disciplined now. Yeah.
And I think that we got to put ourselves to these mindset of being extreme sometimes to kind of change the narrative, shift the paradigm, right? And I love that you
Yeah.
brought that up. Wow, you're all being so real and vulnerable today on this show. It's amazing. Just to remind everybody, this is an international show, right, Syra? Where are you again?
Oh, I'm in Germany, south of
In
Germany, like the
Germany. What time
French-German
is it
border.
over
Yeah.
there right now?
We're going to 11:40 p.m.
Oh,
Yeah.
PM. Oh,
Yes.
so you're in the
But I'm
future. You're
so
ahead.
hyped. Yeah, I'm ahead. But the
Yeah,
energy is
but
so good. I could go another 2 hours.
yeah, no,
So
that's a
good.
great. It's great. I love the
Yeah.
energy, and I hope that you are enjoying this as well. Vera, I
Amazing.
wanted to ask you one question. Regarding this routine, you talked about coaches. How did you come up with this routine?
I kind of just fell into it, right? Because I was gonna add when Sarah was talking is we all have bad days. That's the other thing. People beat themselves up. They miss a couple days. They beat themselves up. Oh, this is not for me. I fall off every now and then
Mhm.
back on track, right? Because you have to like regroup. It's okay to have bad days. It's okay to not want to get out of bed and not do things. That's reality. We're all human, depending on what we're processing and dealing with. It's normal to have a bad day, a bad week, a bad 2 weeks. The purpose is just regroup and love yourself, right? To her point. Um, because we all go through and we're very hard on ourselves.
Yeah.
I think, what we were saying is you talk to yourself so much nastier than you do to other people. And so that was I'm still learning, right? I'm very hard on myself, learning to just be kind to yourself and saying, it's okay. All right, I had a lapse of judgment or I messed up. It's okay. Tomorrow's a new day. Sometimes I'll say, this day needs to end. We need to start over. Like it's over. We need to just regroup, hot shower, go to bed and start over. And that's okay. But I kind of just fell into it. The meditation started with a life coach that I had, Umberto, and he was amazing. And I can recommend him to everyone. He still does it, in his downtime, but he really kind of just helped me hone in on it's okay to have bad days. It's okay to keep moving forward and try a little bit each day. Okay, so my meditation when I started, I couldn't focus. That's the hardest piece. People are like, how do you meditate? Just try to turn it off. It could be a second, then regroup, recenter yourself. I didn't know what I was doing. I use apps. I use all types of apps. I use YouTube videos, whatever works. As long as you're trying to dedicate some time to yourself, I think that's the hardest part. So now I have it down to a little bit of a science. Some days it's 5 minutes, some days it's 15 minutes. It depends on what time I can allot to it. But just do something that makes you feel better.
Just do something, right?
Something.
And I love that you framed it very well. For those that are watching and want to learn more about yoga, or some, if you're waking up with aches and pains and your body's just stiff, oof, Vera, I can only imagine. I was in an accident in 2011,
God.
and I have two bulge discs in my back. If I don't do a couple of warm ups and my body and my open up my hips, ooh, I'm walking like stiff.
I mean, I fell asleep watching a movie on the couch the other day. I'm still paying for it. My hips are all discombobulated. Like you're in pain, physical pain. And again, you stretch, you do it. Okay, so you can't do as much this day. Okay, you stretch it out. Each day gets a little bit better. But I think just trying to keep moving forward is a game changer. If you have that mindset of like, okay, today was an 8, tomorrow I'll try to be a 9. And that's okay, and just try to keep improving. You're not competing. I always say this even to my team. I'm like, you're not competing with anyone but yourself. Do better than you did yesterday, and you're fine.
Right. Do better than you did yesterday. I love it. For those that are watching on the live, engage with us. Like, comment, and share. We're talking about self care. And Vera, that was so many remedies that you were just sharing, and it was great to just kind of round robin and get everybody included in the discussion. And we'll talk a little bit more around the final thoughts segment of the portion. We'll ask for everybody's final thoughts on self care. Now, anchoring us in, Damaris, when we first crossed paths, like everybody here, we were all connected in different frequencies. And when I heard about your story and what you've gone through, I was just like, taken back because it's so hard, right? To kind of just persevere and push through. And for all of us here as parents, it can be challenging. The easiest thing to do is just give up, right? That's the easiest thing. So, Damaris, what does self care look like for you?
Oh, thank you for asking that question. I was waiting for this. So Anthony, I think you kind of alluded to it, right? I 2017 was one of the hardest years of my life where I was literally confronted with surviving. I 2 months after having my son, I was diagnosed with cervical cancer, and I remember going in to the hospital with my 2 month old, carrying him in the car seat, and my husband to see a surgeon, and say, okay, where do I go from here? Like an oncologist, like what happens next? And talking about survival rates. It was a very difficult year. I had to go through all that to come out on the other side and understand and learn through that what was important to me and how I would view self care. And for me, it's a very holistic um, way of living. And it starts at my core of living my values. So, what I mean by living my values is what are the top things in my life that are important, right? Family, number one. Uh, that is top tier for me. So everything that I do, it will always come from a mindset of like, well, how does this support my family life that I aspire to always have or to grow, right? And there is the component of time, right? Like I value time, because that time buys me the opportunity to spend more quality time with the ones that I love and make the impact that I intend on making, not just around in my family alone, but on others in the community, right? So those are two big values of mine. And of course that community work and that community outreach and impacting other people's lives. So when I think about how do I build in my life habits and systems that will support all of that, and that to me is self-care. So for example, and it may be a little bit untraditional, we're not talking here about necessarily like going to the gym and going to the hair salon and doing your nails and like massages, like I do all of those are great, but at the core of that for me is, all right, well, how do I buy myself more time so that I can spend the time that I have doing the things that are very important to me, right? So for instance, I've swapped out, instead of going grocery shopping myself, I buy myself time by ordering groceries online and getting it
Mhm.
delivered. Now that to me is self-care because now I have more time to either spend time with my family, spend time with myself, or spend time with clients or community where I'm making an impact, where I'm driving more impact than I would do if I just go to the grocery store, right? Does that make sense?
Mm, absolutely.
So there's, little things like that that I do that really help me um, bring to surface much more of who I am than what I do. So another thing, I love to read in the morning. I love to pray, meditate, and do that at night as well. I have kind of like a ritual with my son, put him to bed at night, and we say a little prayer. And the prayer is literally just being thankful for all the people in our lives. Because having gone through cancer, I recognize that had it not been for those people in my lives, had it not been for people supporting me through that, I wouldn't be here today, right? So I make it a conscious ritual with him to make sure that he remembers that it's not the things that we have and the things that we own and the things that we want, but the people in our lives that really make a difference. And that's also to me self care, is that taking that moment in time to be grateful for what we have.
I love that you talked about some non-negotiables that you do and you have your children included. And when you're talking about what you value most and you value that family time, that self-care is that you're finding that time to replace doing other things, to be with the family. And shout out to Instacart because I love Instacart. Syra, there's this app here that we can just have somebody shop for our groceries
Wow.
and they deliver it to us. It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
Shout out to Instacart.
Yeah.
Damaris,
Uh,
you brought up another good point because you know I love playing Uno with my
Mm.
kids. I think that they're at an age and it's super competitive. So we have like these different variations of the Uno game, and it's like sometimes we'll team up on each other. We know that this person has Uno. It's like, do you have a draw? Do you have a draw? We're trying to get them.
yeah.
So those are the moments that I truly value. So I connected with you on that.
Yeah.
Syra Vera, did you have any nighttime games or any kind of routines or rituals that you guys do, whether it's fun or, Vera, you kind of alluded to some of your morning routine, any kind of nighttime routines as well?
I think the same with the kids, right? Because that's where our world revolve around. We do family game nights, movie nights. It's That's self care in a different way. It's an emotional self care.
It's a different way, yeah.
That's why we do everything else that we do. I think that's a driving factor for me anyway. So
Mhm.
yes, we do the Uno. Uno's a big thing. Dominoes is a big thing in our house because my kids
Ooh,
are a little older, so it's very fun and very competitive. But
yeah. For those that are watching, just to connect with you all, what are some ways that you uh, block out that time? What do you do with that time? What do you like to do? What do you value most? And this is a very healthy and uh, mature conversation to have because it's easily said than done, and more times than not, we see others doing it, and sometimes we just I can never do that. It's like no, you can, and if that's what makes you happy, we encourage you. In fact, I dare you, right? You know, Damaris, you mentioned you were going through a transition, and you told us the story. Going to the doctor with your 2-month old. Um, how are you now?
Absolutely great. So yeah, and look, like it was like again, I said it was a very, very difficult year and beyond, right? Because it doesn't stop after chemo, it doesn't stop after radiation. There's a process that goes beyond that in healing, right? Healing emotionally, because you carry. I think during that time frame, it was just about physically surviving. So once you finally physically survive, then you come out of it, and now your brain, your emotions, everything kind of catches up, and you're just like, "Whoa! What just happened? What did I go through?" Right? So then there was the working through the depression, the anxiety, the panic attacks, all of those things, right? And getting the support again from family, from friends, from doctors, practicing the rituals, the yoga. I mean, I remember going to my first yoga class after all of that happened, and literally my body being in so much physical and emotional pain of me just sitting there crying, like right, because everything was pent up, right? And so I've learned to be very in touch with my body, be very in touch with my mind, and understand the feelings that I'm going through, right? So when I'm feeling frustrated or I'm feeling X, Y, and Z, I can stop myself and say, Damaris, why are you feeling this way? And how do we change that feeling? How do we, move past it? How do we work through that so that I come out on the other side better, so that others receive me better, right? Because that's ultimately what it is about, right? Like you show up as you show up, and you want others to be able to feel the good that you have to offer and not your bad, right? So it's always having that mental check-in. um, so those are things that I practice. And boundaries are like top, also one of the top things that I practice, right? And I've learned that through a lot of mistakes of trying to do it all, and realize that that person that used to do it all before I had, my son, before I had cancer. I think, Vera, you mentioned about how you had to adjust to the new you post surgery, right? Like, this was me, right? Like, you identify yourself with things that you do and what you're capable of, and then suddenly that changes, and you're, again, it a mindset has to change of like, okay, I'm no longer capable of that. I can no longer be a part of all these things that I used to do and be. How do I define myself now? And how do I redefine myself where I still feel who I am, feel that I am who I am, but I am evolved? And so it was a lot of that, and it happened through, and continues, right? Like, I still keep on working through it, is truly aligning myself with my values and setting boundaries around that, of saying, this is who I am and this is what I am about. Therefore, self-care to me means that I'm going to set boundaries in place where, if it does not connect with that lifestyle and those things that matter to me, it does not belong as part of my life, and I cannot be involved, or I cannot go, and now I feel good about being able to say, no, that's not for me. No, I cannot go there. Not because I cannot, no, I do not want to be there, because that doesn't align with my purpose. That doesn't align with my goals. That doesn't align with my lifestyle. And that to me is also self-care, right? It's about truly knowing who you are, what you're about, and staying within that framework so that you don't feel out of, like, stressed about trying to be everywhere and be everything for everyone, right? You don't have to do that. And as Sarah, you mentioned about, like, we live in a world where there's just so much, and we're not, our bodies as humans, we're not meant to be all that. So it's setting those boundaries that really has helped me kind of transition from, being, single, having, to having kids, being, never knowing what cancer is, to surviving it, and going from being working in corporate to now being an entrepreneur, right? Like that, all of those things require a lot of change in yourself and understanding what self-care is so that you can show up better than you did the day before.
It's true, right? And I think you started off with, healthy boundaries, and that's kind of what started this all with what you were saying. And I love the fact that we can have this conversation now after the fact, right? Because when we're going through it and we're in that metamorphosis stage, and
It's ugly.
we don't really see the light at the end of the tunnel as clear as we see it now,
No, there is
right?
no light. I mean, there's a lot of darkness
There's no
always.
light.
I mean, I don't know about you, Vera, but having gone through a life-changing experience, right? Like, when you're in it, it's darkness. It's dark. You don't see the light. At least I didn't see the light. I was
You
just
don't
It's
like,
see
true.
you
I
don't
don't
see
know if I'm ever gonna come out of
It's
this,
true.
right?
You
And
know, so even
understanding that
here,
this is
us just
what the road
sharing
has.
this,
Yeah.
it's just sharing this is I think we're winning already, right? Because we've gone through the storm, and we're battle tested. And for those that are, you're going through a storm right now, I want you to stay the course, stay encouraged, listen to what some of the remedies that you're hearing today about self-care, and creating new mechanisms, new methods, finding about what you value and what you purpose. And you know it's just, it's so rewarding that we can have these conversations now and look back on it and just say, you know what, we're here now. What's the next test, right? And
Mhm.
so, with that said, it goes, it's bittersweet because these calls, these shows, they go fast. And I, I like
So
to
much
talk into
fun.
the final thoughts portion, where we're going to do another round robin, and just kind of, what are the final thoughts for each one of you, for those that are watching, regarding self care is the best care? Starting first, Syra.
I think mental health, physical health, spiritual health, emotional health. Not my monkey, not my circus, and no is a complete sentence.
Oh, is a complete sentence.
Like that.
And I found not my monkey, not my circus was also something I use. I even tell my mum that. I was like, Mum, just say not my monkey, not my circus, because she isn't quite
That's
there.
it. You don't even have to explain it. They don't deserve an explanation. No is no. That's
No
it.
is a complete sentence.
I like that, right? Put yourself first. There you go. Vera, final thoughts.
Everything she said.
Right.
Plus, just love yourself and know that in the darkness there is a little ounce of light at the end of it. Just keep doing something, anything. Do it for yourself. Focus on it, and just be kind. I think that will get you through any storm.
I love it. Thank you so much, Vera. And Damaris, final thoughts. Self-care.
I would say learn to live your values and set your boundaries and create ways to simplify your life so that it doesn't feel and you don't feel the weight of the world on yourself.
Absolutely. And I always like to close the show with a quote of the night. And because it's Women's History Month and we have an international women's panel, I thought it would be amazing to have us, close out the night with a quote from Maya Angelou. And it says,
Yeah.
I believe that the most important single thing beyond discipline and creativity is daring to dare.
I get
I dare
chills.
you all to process and think tonight or in the morning when you're watching this on the replay and try to challenge yourself. I dare you. Comment, like, and share. Again, this is Anthony Rosa. You're watching another show on the Roundtable Remedies. Speakers hang out for the afterglow. It's been great. Go in peace. Go in grace. Love you guys all. Peace out.